What camera should you use to make your film? Well, I would say start with what you have. And if you want to use more than what you have, then for anything I'm about to suggest, remember that you don't have to buy. You can always borrow or rent or buy something secondhand. The first thing I'm going to say is this: do not buy into the gear obsession that a lot of filmmakers have. In general, you just need a method of recording picture and sound that works for you. And you should start by learning how to shoot and edit and tell a story with whatever you already have before you buy any other kit. Now, as technology is changing all the time and advice on what specific kit to buy can become outdated very quickly, I'm just going to give some general suggestions about what kit to use. I am, however, going to assume that you want to shoot digitally instead of shooting on film, as this isn't the cheapest or easiest method. Firstly, as the most basic option, consider using a smartphone. Now, most new smartphones are so powerful these days that you can get amazing results using them if you know how to use the camera well. So you might decide, if you have one of these already, that you don't need anything else. This is probably what I would have done if I was just starting out now, as the quality today, even from a phone, is a million times better than what I could do back with my old camcorder when I was first starting out. Some smartphones even have multiple lens choices, and you can also buy attachable lenses and filters. So again, this might mean you can do a great deal with just your phone. If you do take this route, you can begin by just using the inbuilt video function, but this will usually just give you auto settings where the camera controls everything, and this usually looks pretty amateur, as things like your brightness will keep changing all the time. So if you want to get better results, I would suggest a third-party camera app. This gives you much more control and lets you alter most of the things you could usually alter with a proper camera, like the frame rate, the resolution, the white balance, the shutter speed, the focus, and sometimes the aperture. Some phones are now being made with inbuilt manual settings too for video, so this might mean that you don't actually need an extra app. It all depends what you are using. Remember though, if you are using your phone to make your film, then there are some big drawbacks you should be aware of. For example, you can't access it easily to do anything else like calls or messages and the million other things they do, and your battery will go down fast, so you'll most likely need some portable power. And for me, the biggest drawback of this method is constantly running out of space. Every time I want to film something on my phone, I find I'm running out of space due to everything else that is on there. So this might sound like a good option at first, but it isn't for everyone. And if these sound like familiar problems to you too, then it can very quickly become obvious that it is better to have a dedicated camera and not use a tool that is designed these days to do 101 other things. One solution, of course, is that if you have an old smartphone lying around, you can use that to film with, and you're not trying to do everything else on the same device. Next, if you want to shoot a scene or film that is very action-based, you could look at using an action sports camera. These can get some great results for certain situations, and they usually rely on autofocus. I've done quite a few stunt-based visual effects experiments, and small cameras like this actually hold up pretty well as long as you're not shooting in low light. But just know that these action cameras are not useful for every situation. As they are designed with very wide lenses, they will distort your actors if you put them close to the camera, and they also don't usually have a zoom function or any other lens options. So I would say this isn't a very flexible choice to shoot a traditional film on. They're better used for a specific shot where you just need a small camera that you can fling around, or maybe for a sequence where there is some high risk of damage. Or another popular use is to get somebody's POV or point of view because you have such a wide lens. So I usually think action cameras are good, but only for specific situations. But if that's all you have and you want to tell a creative story, then go for it and think of an idea that would benefit from these limitations. Next, if you want something more advanced than a phone or an action camera and you're willing to spend more, then you could look at getting an entry-level camera without a fixed lens, like a basic DSLR or mirrorless camera. You can go for fixed lens cameras too, but these are probably better for things like documentaries where you're filming something unplanned and you don't want to be changing lenses all the time. They are a good all-in-one option, but they're not that great in low light. You can normally get prettier results from a camera where you can change the lens, as it's often the lens that is worth spending the money on rather than the camera. So for anything fictional where you can control what you're filming, you're not likely to need a documentary camera, and so nowadays I would probably go for a camera where you can change the lens, and you'll get lots of different varied results with just one camera. Having said that, if you do already have an old fixed lens camera lying around, then they do usually have amazingly long zooms, and if you don't shoot in low light, then you can still get some good results. Again, you could try and write something that would benefit from having a long zoom or a documentary style to your shots. The next category is probably a higher end, more expensive DSLR or mirrorless camera, and these will tend to give you things like more options for frame rates and footage dimensions, but they basically function the same way as cheaper cameras that are smaller. If you're happy to spend a lot more money, then you could go for more of a cinema grade camera, which will usually not only have lens options but also have proper audio outputs and lots of other features. But for most passion projects, this isn't really necessary. I would stick with a DSLR or a mirrorless camera as my first choice for low budget filmmaking. So that just about covers some of the basic camera options you might need for your project, but remember, always start with what you have.